Hello, hello, hello. FIFA Club World Cup show, a global showdown, episode 17. Here we are on this Saturday, July 5th. Quarterfinals come to a close with myself, Gary Stryker, my enigmatic Dutch partner, the Qooligan, and a friend of the show, Manu Veth, who is the head of content for Transfermarkt in the North America region, I believe, and also one half of the Gegenpressing podcast, the Bundesliga podcast. Gentlemen, we have just come off of that thrilling end to that quarterfinal of Dortmund against Real Madrid. Where do we start?
Chaos.
So much chaos.
This is one of those things where, of course, I had my match report written at the 60-minute mark, and I'm just like, yeah, this is gonna peter out. It's gonna be a 2-0 win for Real Madrid, and then Sabitzer almost makes it 3-3, and I would have had to trash it the entire thing. At least it was 3-2 defeat to Dortmund. It was still somewhat salvageable. This is a common theme for anyone who's ever has had to write match reports or match stories, that we try to write them as early as we can. And of course, then pray that the result that we're seeing at the 60-minute mark actually holds, because, often it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. Today was one of those days where it almost didn't.
Yeah, I completely empathize with that. Having written a number of match reports myself, and both games would have been equally frustrating for anybody who was writing. So yes, without a doubt, it was an absolute. I don't really know. I don't have the word for it. I mean, you said chaos. It's about the best way to describe it. Utter
Barnstormer, yes.
Bonkers was the other one I would go with. Complete and utter bonkers.
If you watch Dortmund on a regular basis, though, you kind of get used to it.
And so can I ask, so from a German's perspective, Manu, they didn't look so competitive in the first half. Real looked really comfortable, really cruised through, 2 good goals from both the Garcias. Yeah. And then second half came along, and again, also sort of like third of the way through the second half, it was like, okay, they're just going to see this out. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, it exploded into life. And suddenly there's, just one goal, and then it changes, and then there's some subs, and then Mbappé and Reds, and as you say, nearly 3-3 at the end as well. Courtois really did keep the team in it. But is that, you say that's classic Dortmund? That's how they play? Is that's
very often their story? I mean, when we had that Champions League run that ended with them losing to Real Madrid about 12 months ago, right? Or 30 months ago now. And there were so many games like that in it. They're a very emotionally charged team, massive club in Germany, regularly play in front of 83,000 people at the Signal Iduna Park there, or Westfalenstadion if you're a traditionalist. And this is the sort of thing that you get with them. It's an emotionally charged club. It's a club that plays football with using the heart rather than the head. And they're never really beaten until they're really beaten many times, And so today was a little bit of a weird game. They never really got their foot in the door until it was pretty much too late. And Sergio Guirassy was so excellent throughout the tournament. Before the penalty had an XG of 0.00, so 0 chances, and so they just weren't present. And then all of a sudden, Maxi Bayer comes out of nowhere, makes it 2-1, and then Mbappé quickly answers, and then you have the penalty, and then Sabitzer almost scores. And I wouldn't have been shocked if this goes 3-3 into extra time, and then Dortmund probably would have seen it out because they were a man more on the field, and
they had the momentum as well, right?
Yeah. Momentum as well. But I think what's really frustrating about this is, and this has been a story for them for quite some time, is that in those last 10 minutes, you saw the potential of the club and the squad. And we've seen it many times over the last few years. Kind of encapsulates the entire Bundesliga season that they had last year, where they were out of the top 7, 8, and then Niko Kovac comes in and has a remarkable run. Still manages to get somehow into the top 4, secures Champions League football, right? And you wonder now if Niko Kovac had been a coach from the beginning, maybe they would have even challenged for the Bundesliga title, right? So, and this was kind of the same thing here. It was essentially the 2024-2025 season in a nutshell. They're like, oh wait, we have to actually do something here and play good football. And the Dortmund squad is absolutely competitive with the best teams in Europe, but they sometimes don't show it until they're really cornered against the wall.
I
Interesting.
have a feeling that there's some sort of very sort of quiet bonus system, which is if you make spectacular moves right at the end, they kick a little few extra euros under the table there.
A flare finish or something like that.
Sure,
Is that it?
Sure.
Yeah. So, and then just looking at Real Madrid, I mean, again, as I put in our agenda and our notes, is Real had only conceded 2 goals in this entire tournament, and it looked as though they were coasting, and then all of a sudden they leaked 2 goals. Again, from a Real perspective, I know it's Alonso just getting his sort of fingerprints over the team and systems, and he's still trying to sort of like do the right thing by Modric and sort of keep him relevant. But you can imagine if you're Alonso, it's like, look, if he's leaving, why do I need him? I get he adds some value, but you want to sort of play with your teams. He doesn't seem to love Rodrigo. I know Rodrigo came on towards the end, but it seems like Alonso's, again, now to be honest, I mean, it's also sort of like, he's picking up $100 bill on the side of the road here in Alonso in terms of Real Madrid, right? It's not like it's not a turnaround situation, right? It's pretty comfortable. All the stars are there. Plus there's Alexander Arnold, and there's also Dean Huijsen as well. So do you think that sort of Real are also sort of getting there?
Listen, I think, and not to cut in, Manu, but he already made the hardest choice that he had to make of his young managerial life there by telling Mbappé, just sit this one out. I've got this guy. I hear this guy, Garcia. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a difficult decision because Garcia has been in such outrageous form.
4 goals this
but
whole
at the
tournament,
same
right?
time, you're talking about seeding Kylian Mbappé and saying, no, you're going to be on the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but we're going to talk about PSG in a moment here, right? But PSG significantly improved the moment Kylian Mbappé left. Because Kylian Mbappé doesn't like the press. And when you watch the Bayern PSG game, and that was for me at this tournament the game at the highest level. It was ultimately ruined by a referee, but it was the game at the highest level at this tournament so far, and that was because there were 2 teams that really aggressively pressed everywhere on the pitch. And there's this famous video of Luis Enrique trying to teach Mbappé to press everywhere on the pitch. And Mbappé really doesn't want to do it. And it was funny when Enrique gave his pre-game press conference in Seattle before the Sounders game. He actually spoke about that moment. He's like, I'm not here to make any further documentaries. Like, we're here to win games and improve every player who wants to be here every day on the pitch. And he does that. And Mbappé didn't want to buy into that program. And Xabi Alonso is a coach. We've seen him in Leverkusen who has a clear system in mind, who wants to play a certain tactic in a system where everyone buys into. And I tell you what, if Kylian Mbappé doesn't buy in, he's gone. He's not going to start here the same way with Rodrigo, who didn't want to buy in. He doesn't care about names. And I think that is something to keep in mind here, right? Mbappé will have to change as a football player. Now, I do want to also stress he was really sick.
No, that is very true. No, he was in the hospital.
11 or 12 pounds, I understand, from gastroenteritis. Yes,
that sucks. That's not fun, right? Sure. But Gonzalo looks like a fantastic talent, right? What do you do with him now? Do you sell him so Real Madrid can add another big name free agent down the road, like to balance the books? I mean, but in fairness, they do this so very well, right? Like they develop these players and then they sell them, and they pick up players on free transfers before they're big stars, and it's a very good system that they have in place. And look, if Mbappé doesn't work out there, I think there's a handful of teams in Europe that would probably pay big money for him to get him.
Yeah. That's an interesting concept as well. I'd never conceived of the idea of Mbappé leaving, but Alonso, if he comes in and there is a bit of a clash of ideas and cultures, then
there is rumors already.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Right.
I can see that. Now, isn't Garcia's a homegrown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's pure profit also, for the club, right?
Well, but there's a Real Madrid. There's a kind of, when was the last sort of real homegrown guy that they pulled through and sort of pulled off from the streets and sort of, pulled through the system, right? I think Raul is the only one that I can think of, right? I know maybe Valverde, actually, that's not fair. Valverde, but maybe, and there's a few other Valverde probably, but that's an interesting side. Okay, so that leaves Real Madrid through to one side of the semifinals, and of course they will be facing up against PSG. So again, we've got Mbappé against. Again, we have these PSG sort of seem to keep coming up against their old sort of superstars, right? They've gone through Messi. Now they're going to obviously go up against Mbappe. And again, Luis Enrique, I'm sure there's an axe to grind. I'm sure there's motivation with Mbappe. But this PSG Bayern game as well, I mean, it's just been all bangers this round, right? It's been
Was that the
nothing but
final?
entertaining games.
I think it was.
The
PSG
final was
Bayern. I think that was the early final.
That was the first final that they lost to Bayern when Lewandowski scored, right? So
I think PSG Bayern at this tournament was the actual final.
Do you think that was the final?
I think PSG is going to win this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to win this tournament, you have to get through PSG. It's evident, right? So I think I think we've all agreed with that. Yeah.
So and they look so good, even though, I mean, they're missing 2 players, right? PSG is going to be missing 2 key players, not just for the semi, but they're going to miss them for the final. They're gone for this tournament.
Yeah, but Lucas came off the bench.
Oh, no, I don't think Lucas is key. Pacho was
Pacho's.
But
the bigger question is for me. I alluded to this. I'm still baffled how Donnarumma can take Jamal Musiala out for the next 6 months, and Anthony Taylor doesn't even look at it again in the monitor. And this is again 12 months after Jamal Musiala had a shot blocked by Cucurella in the Euros 2024. And guess who the referee was at that game? Anthony Taylor. And I'm sorry, but then he goes and looks at the monitor in the dying moments to overtake the Thomas Müller penalty. I actually don't think that was a penalty, but he goes out on the monitor. And I'm still baffled how Donnarumma essentially got away with murder there. When you look at that replay, anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul. That's a penalty. That's a Bayern goal. And this game ends differently. And, they without the best player, they still kept PSG, they still kept us competitive. Didn't have the big chances, which is hard because, the best player is out now for the next 5 to 6 months. But I'm just baffled how this referee at this level refuses to go to the VAR monitor. If he goes to the VAR and split hairs or whatever, but he doesn't even look. Instead, he just calls it off. Maybe he was shocked by the injury. It looked horrendous. But this is the second time in 12 months that this referee, Anthony Taylor, has made a horrendous decision against the German team and against Jamal Musiala. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And remember, I had people explain to me 12 months ago, oh, really? It wasn't a handball. Cucurella is allowed to do this only for UEFA. Then to come out and say you know what? We actually made a mistake. That should have been a penalty. It's the same. This was a penalty. Everywhere else on the pitch, that's a penalty. That's a foul. And if it's a foul in the box, it's a penalty. I'm not saying send off Donnarumma, but he then goes and looks at the injury and realizes what he's done. He's a 100-kilogram player who just comes out. What is he even doing there? I play goalkeeper myself. This is not the 6-yard box. This is the 18-yard box. He's doesn't have special protection there. He gets to the ball eventually, but after he knocked out Musiala, this is the moment that decided the game for me. I think Bayern Munich defeat PSG without that moment.
That's fair. So I think, Manu, I understand there's a bit of emotion, obviously, there, and understandably from a German perspective, right? An English referee going against a German team. I mean, I think there's probably some historical context there.
But you have to remember too that rivalry is very one-sided. In Germany, we don't care about England. It's the Netherlands, it's the Austrians, it's the French, right? They are our rivals, the Italians. But this is the second time he made a bad call.
From a neutral perspective, I will say, just looking at that injury, and look, it was a horrific injury over and over again. I do have to say, it didn't look like it was like a crunching sort of dangerous tackle. It did look, it was more unfortunate in the position. I agree. Obviously, it was there. Qooligan, I mean, from your perspective as a referee, I mean, what would be your take on that?
So the funny thing is, the only thing that I did not see in that game was that injury. I actually had something on the stove. I had to go and check. I came back and everything happened. And they did not replay the injury.
No, because it was horrendous.
They don't. It was horrendous.
I'm going to admit I'm a little squeamish, so I have not gone back and looked. I have to set out and take myself off of this although I have talked with 4 people online, asked about that specific situation, and none of them have said that it was an actual. None of them have told me that it was a penalty, and 2 of those people are referees that I spoke with. No, I'm not saying
like
that
I
that's
had
right or
referees
wrong.
tell me
I
a
just
month
don't know.
ago, like a year ago, that the Musiala situation against Cucurella wasn't a penalty, and then
No, that was
That
a
was.
penalty.
But like
I'm
that
not
was-
talking
but
about
in this
that. I'm
game-
not talking about that one. I'm talking about the Donnarumma one, and
I
actually,
I initially wrote on Blue Sky that I don't think it was a penalty, and then I saw the replay. And the reason why I say it's a penalty is because he goes and tackles Musiala before he gets to the ball. And on top of that, he sandwiches punch Musiala between him and Pacho. And if I understand it's a goalkeeper, special protection, all that, but it's not the 6-yard box. It is far outside the 6-yard box.
Are there different rules between inside the 6-yard box and
Yeah.
inside the
No.
18?
Well, they used to be, right? There used to be special
not
protection.
officially.
Yeah,
Not officially.
But there used to be that special protection, but he's way out. And my problem is that he plays the player before he plays the ball.
Yeah, I'd have to see it, and like I said, I don't know, but
It was very unfortunate for Bayern to come out of that, because they had looked really strong and really so dominant as well. If we can bring a little bit of levity to the situation, I don't know if you saw the end interview as well with Harry Kane. Did you see this, where one of the interviewers said to Harry Kane something along the lines of, to the effect of, like, how do you feel about going out in the quarterfinals of this tournament? And Thomas Müller, who's the ultimate shithouser, was in the background and said he's always used to going out of tournaments. He's never won a trophy. So, and that's Thomas Müller. He will be missed. He will be missed at Bayern, because he was
his goodbye present. He and Harry are really close friends. They golf together.
Oh wow!
So,
No, that's
wow.
That's all. Yeah. Sorry.
It's a little soon for that type of levity, but sure. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah.
He's always brought a certain je ne sais quoi to his post match interviews. That's for sure.
Yeah. So that leaves PSG up against Real. Now, I was trying to sort of like figure out, like, again, the amount of stupid yellow cards that have been sort of issued, and I'm not saying by the referees, I'm talking about from behavior from the players, and also as well, if you look on the PSG side as well, they had 2 red cards, I believe, as well, if that serves correct, right? Pacho and Hernandez.
He had 2
as well.
reds, correct?
Yeah,
and they were both clear reds.
And then on the Real side, obviously Huijsen as well is out, because he got that red as well with that penalty, which was a goal scoring opportunity as well.
There's an argument that you could make that should have been a yellow instead of a red, because depending on the league you're playing in, sometimes an infraction inside, it's called a dogzo amongst the referees, right? It's a dogzo foul, denial of a goal scoring opportunity. He was the last man. He clearly pulled Guirassy back. Some leagues, they give the penalty and a yellow. Some leagues, they give a red. Listen, I'm not going to argue this way or that way. I think it was stupid of Huijsen to pull him.
Yes.
You're up. Don't, I just thought that was a moment of,
you can make the,
he thought he was going to be fine and get a yellow, and
yeah. And you can make the argument that Rudiger was also back with them as well, so he wasn't the last defender as well. And so that's where it was a little bit. But then if you look at it, and then Mbappe's still going and still chirping in his face as well, and goes and gets a yellow card. And sure, Mbappe's not going to be suspended, but But if Mbappe gets a yellow card for the next match, then he misses the final if they go through as well.
But
and it's these little
things. They reset after this.
Yeah. Oh, they reset. Oh, of course, they reset after the semi, so everyone for the final is clean as well, right? So okay. So,
this is the quarters, and they reset after the quarters, and that's why it didn't. The yellows that happened and the reds that happened in this match were bad, but it's actually the 2 previous matches that we're going to discuss where the double yellows are now coming into effect, because the double yellows in those other matches will be impacting players. In fact, 4 players, 2 from Chelsea and 2 from Fluminense, are going to miss this next game precisely because of that. Now, Huijsen's out, Pacho's out, Hernandez is out. They're done. Their tournament's over. Might as well get on the plane and go home.
Yeah, but, and I saw Alonso pulled off Bellingham, Alexander-Arnold, and also there was a third one as well. And again, they were all on yellows as well, just to protect them that way as well. So
you don't want to.
That's management.
You certainly don't want to be taking that chance of having any of those guys.
Yeah. So So then moving over to so obviously that sets up obviously PSG against Real. We'll talk about sort of what the semifinals will look like in a second. But then going through to yesterday's games, obviously Chelsea against Palmeiras. I mean, talking about stupid yellow cards, Liam Delap. I mean, what was? I mean, he was just in. I can't remember the Palmeiras' defender, but he was getting into them. They kept saying on the commentary, classic English centre forward as well. And I was just trying to be the bulldozer in the battering ram, the link-up play, which he did very well relatively. But for the yellow card that he got was just absolutely stupid. I think he just shouldered him on an off-the-ball incident. He didn't need to do it.
And 49th minute of the
didn't need to do it. Yeah.
And could he have made it any more obvious? Only if he had pulled a knife. I mean, it was a straight up mugging. I mean, done.
Yeah.
You can take the boy out of Manchester, but you can't take the mank out of the boy.
Well, I mean, that's it. Yeah, it was there. So, I mean, just looking back at that Chelsea Palmeiras games, I mean, guys, what were your what was your take and thoughts on it? I'll acquiesce to you being the Chelsea fan, obviously, on the call.
I'll give Manu the first crack at that one.
It's good that they went through. It's the results that matter at this stage of the tournament, right? Like, I think it was a hard fought game for Chelsea and Palmeiras. The strongest of the South American teams, without a doubt. They could have given them a real run for the money here, and they did. And ultimately, I think you take the win at this stage. Chelsea did really well getting on this side of the tournament bracket, and it looks like the easier side, right? And when you look at the other side with Bayern, PSG, Dortmund, Real Madrid, it's just
all the UEFA teams knocking each other out, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, having said that, Fluminense is a good team as well. They have to get past them first. I think FIFA would love it for it to be a South American UEFA final.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I mean, this is the strongest South American team, in my opinion. And I think Palmeiras, with the budget that they have, the stadium, the players that they have developed, Estevao comes to mind, right? I think this was the toughest opponent that Chelsea could have faced on this side of the bracket, and job done.
I agree. I think Chelsea did just enough, right? They and my biggest thing was, what in the hell kit were they wearing? Why would they wear a green and white kit?
Green. Yeah.
And I get that they're playing in Philadelphia and they want to, at least appeal to the local crowd and whatnot, but it just didn't make any sense. But that's completely irrelevant to the game. Listen, they played fine. That goal from Estevao was fantastic. Full props to Mr. Gary Stryker, who called it last week, said Estevao will score against Chelsea. I'm going to give full props there.
Thank you. Yeah, not as big. If we're passing out flowers as well, not as big as your Al Hilal beating Manchester City call as well, which you did.
True. That was the call of the year. I'm going to call of the tournament. I'll accept that. But you nailed it. And as soon as it happened, I jumped off my couch and was like, Gary, said it. I thought it was fantastic. And it was a beautiful goal.
Up the contender for goal of the tournament. It was special. It was very special. I mean, terrible goalkeeping once again. Sanchez left his near post wide open as well. It was pretty easy, but it was a wonderful goal. It was.
Yeah. But I mean, fair play to Chelsea. I think they let's see what they can do now against. Let's see what they can do. Although they may be forced to put Mr. Nicholas Jackson in the front.
Well,
now that Dilap's not around, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But that was the first thought. But then they also brought on João Pedro, their new signing from Brighton, and I have to say, he looked effective. I know, again, this is Chelsea's, what I've realized about Chelsea is they're just going to keep signing players until they get it right? They are just going to keep rotating through players. They'll buy them for 30, sell them for 45. They'll sell a club here and sort of, sell a hotel there and a training ground as well. And what I don't understand is they had, again, I know I'm going a little bit off topic and a little bit of a rant here that will maybe sort of be comparable with yours, Manu, about the German teams, but Chelsea had the best PSR by Premier League standards and then just announced that they got fined by UEFA for financial penalties. But then the irony is as well, but they've just won. but at the same time, they've just won 63 million to getting to the semi-final for the for Club World Cup. So
yeah, but that money
it's
isn't
kind of like,
available right away.
yeah, Todd Bowley will find a way. Don't worry, he can move some beans around the court. So yeah,
I mean, there was a really great report on the finances of European football by the Swiss Ramble on Substack, and 5 Bundesliga teams made a double-digit profit, and several Premier League teams are in clear violation of FFP rules. And to be quite frank with you, like if the UEFA would use Bundesliga or Ligue 1 rules, Chelsea and Aston Villa and Barcelona would all get relegated to amateur football.
Yeah, but they can't do that. They can't cannibalize their own product as well. In a
Yeah,
way,
they
right?
can. I mean, football is full of clubs that have gone the way of Gironde or Bordeaux.
Oh.
But that's the thing. Like, Todd Bowley comes in. You know, he signed Gittins today, 6-year contract, 64 million euros. Why is beyond me. He's very much an overrated player. But you know, like, he signed for a 6-year contract, so you cook the books, which is allowed in England and America. You're allowed to cook the books. The rest of the world does proper financing. The US and UK, you can do apparently whatever you want. So you break that down, right? And it becomes 6 million, it's 10 million a year. So all of a sudden, this is doable. I mean, like, the problem is that in North American sports, this is so well, they level the playing field, right? You have to play by financial rules, and everyone has to play by the financial rules. That's not taking place in Europe at the moment. You have the Germans and the French play by very astute financial rules, where even an Olympic Lyon could get relegated from Ligue 1. And then you have the British and the Spanish who do whatever the fuck they want. Like, but it's true. Like, this is true. Like, Barcelona is €1 billion in debt. Like,
they just
how is that possible?
The stadium should get them out of that hole. They just built another stadium. This was similar to we're going off topic a little bit here, but do you remember that Jim Ratcliffe interview with Gary Neville? And he was saying, like, we can't afford to pay people, like, you know, a Christmas holiday. And then the next announcement was, here's a new $1 billion stadium that we're going to be announcing. It's like, what's going on here? Yes, I know, it's a circus. It is a circus. But anyway, guys, let me pull you back on topic as well. So yeah, so just wrapping up on the Chelsea Palmeiras game. I thought there was a wonderful moment at the end of it where obviously Estevao and Cucurella were really going at it. Apparently, like, Estevao in his Portuguese to Cucurella's Spanish was probably like, hey, just take it a little bit easy, because Cucurella was giving a little something. And apparently Cucurella's response was, when you're in a Chelsea shirt, I'll go easy on you. Until then, I'm coming for you. And to be fair, I mean, he got in around him and he did back off a little. There was a moment where Cucurella backed off a little bit and gave Estevao some space. But there was a wonderful moment where Cole Palmer, who obviously, again, another Mancunian as well, and he sort of speaks almost the way Noel and Liam Gallagher speak, which is his very short, contrite Mancunian way of sort of seeing the world, which, when Cole, how was the game? It was all right. And that's his response. And apparently he went up to Estevao and said, looking forward to seeing you next season. Now, Cole Palmer has a thick Mancunian accent. Estevao doesn't speak a lick of English and only speaks Portuguese, right? And he's like, what the hell is this guy saying to me? There was a moment. So they interviewed Cole Palmer afterwards and said, what did you say to Estevao? And he said, I said, I'm looking forward to seeing him next season. He didn't understand a word of it. So that was that. And then they just moved on. It was these wonderful cultural sort of, you know, in moments of the beautiful game that brings everyone together.
Although, with the dressing room having like 65 players in it, do you think they're even going to meet each other in the dressing room?
Of course they will. They'll play. My question is, I do still feel as if Estevao is probably a little bit too young and light and green.
I'm not sure he actually makes it onto the pitch.
I don't think but you can make the argument that against Chelsea at that standard, what he did to them, he did look effective and he did look to them. But, you know, again, I think he probably needs a year or two on loan somewhere just to go and beef up and Strasbourg or one of the other sort of, you know, satellite teams that are part of the Clear Lake group as well. But I will say, just on the Chelsea side, once again, just like the Benfica game, dominated, looked very strong, looked very in control. Couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and they needed a real stroke of luck to get that second goal, and it was tight. So again, to your point, Qooligan, Nicholas Jackson, does he start? I would like to see João Pedro, because he did look as though he could sort of be effective.
My choice as well. I would pick him over Jackson any day.
Yeah. Yes. Manu, I do have one question for you. I saw that they signed Gittins. So is he eligible to play now for Chelsea in the Club World Cup, or is he cup tied? You can't play for two teams in the same tournament.
The special registration window for the Club World Cup was June 27th to July 3rd.
Okay.
So that's
what I was going to say, and he beat me to it.
Yeah, no,
Well
wonderful.
done.
I just
Yes.
wanted to verify that. But again, but to the point, Chelsea are just going to keep rotating through players until they get it, and they keep buying these. I saw the analogy online, which was the best analogy, which was learner drivers, right? And some of them will make it and be mega stars. The others probably will crash, and if not, they'll just flip them. And like Noni Madueke, they're going to sell him to Arsenal, and Arsenal once again will just pick up Chelsea's trash and carry on playing with it as well, and see what happens. So they'll just keep rotating through players until they get it right. So it's the transfer window, and from your perspective, maybe Manu at Transfer Market, it's just more fodder and more things to write about.
More clicks for the side. I get paid. That's great.
There
Todd, keep it up, even if it's financially
God
unfeasible.
bless Todd Bowley and his transfer strategy as well, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to the final game, because I think we want to just obviously give a little bit of time as well to this Al Hilal Fluminense game. Qooligan, I know you were the resident Al Hilal whisperer in terms of calling that Man City game.
Yeah.
So
well, I didn't think there were. I did not call them for this match. I didn't. I thought Martinelli's strike was pure magic, right? I mean, what a way to start. Too bad they're gonna miss him, because he's suspended for the next game. He got a yellow.
Yeah.
And that was his second. And yeah, Mark, and then Leonardo comes in and does his thing, and it's looking nice and square. Fluminense has a they've got a habit of putting on players and those players scoring goals. And Hercules, again, he came on as a substitute. This was his second goal as a substitute coming back on. So it was just, I didn't think Al Hilal played poorly. In fact, people saying, "Wow, it's great for Saudi football." That's not Saudi football, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just be very clear that's not Saudi football.
Imported,
but at the same time,
why does Saudi football need charity?
I mean, yeah, it's like, but at the same time, great for them, and not that Saudi Arabia needs any sort of coddling. They don't. They're rich as hell. They're a corrupt regime, whatever. But it was nice to see somebody different playing, and it was nice to see somebody else going in and challenging for it. And they didn't play poorly. They didn't necessarily luck out. They earned what they got. Fluminense, of course, was a slightly better team, and they move on. So great. I mean, it's better than seeing Chelsea play Al Hilal. I don't think that would have been very exciting, but I do think Fluminense playing Chelsea, that's what
Thiago Silva. Yeah, I will say, new favorite goalkeeper, Bono. That goalkeeper, he is that Moroccan. He's Moroccan, I believe, as well, right?
He's Canadian, fantastic. Actually.
He's Canadian, but he plays for Morocco. Is that right?
He does play for Morocco, but he is born and raised Canadian.
Born and raised, and what a name as well. I mean, with a name like Bono as well.
Depending on it's spelled two different ways depending on how you go. Most people just go with
B-O-N-O or B-O-N-O-U, right?
It's B-O-U-N-O-U or B-O-N-O.
Yeah.
But that's because it's all phonetic. You can do whatever you want with it, but so it goes, right?
Yeah,
his big meaty, that gigantic right paw of his that just swept around and managed to get the ball before taking the leg down. I was like, damn,
that was he did.
He was, I think, the keeper of the tournament. We all know about Neuer, we know
Donnarumma,
Courtois, we know about all those guys.
Yeah.
It was him, and it was one of my favorite young players of the tournament was the New Zealand keeper. I thought that New Zealand keeper showed himself so well. Sure, he conceded 8 goals, but he also saved 20. He also saved like 27. So I mean, give some props to some props to a university student who took some time off and had to change his exam schedule in order to go and
so he could go
and play.
So Bono's full name is Yassine Bono, which is spelled B-O-U-N-O-U, and he's born in Montreal, Quebec.
There you go.
But plays for Morocco. Right?
I didn't realize that he was born in Canada. Wow.
Yeah, he's one that got away. Him and Omar Mamouche, who's also Canadian.
Okay. Mamouche is also Canadian. What, the Man City guy, Mamouche?
Yeah. So there's a few players that got away. Tomori is another one.
Okay.
Those 3, you add them to the Canada squad, you're laughing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say those 3 get out of the Canada squad. Guatemala didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I think maybe
Let's stay in the relevant tournament, gentlemen, as well. I know we're going to have to set up our own Gold Cup, our own UEFA Cup, UEFA Women's Euros as well. But one other final thing I will say, just as we sort of get to time, is did you guys see that Thiago Silva pre-match pep talk in the dressing room? Did you see that one going around online?
I saw the headline. That's it.
Okay, I'll send you a link afterwards as well. And I think we
sent the link. I just didn't watch it. It was like I'm amazed by this guy in himself, just an absolute enigma at 40 years of age and doing what he's done and everything that he has. But he just gave this sort of like I have a real strange passion for these pep talks, and there's a couple of these sort of like things that have leaked out from dressing rooms. This is up there. He just dug deep. He gave everyone the motivation. He told this very personal story. He was emotional. He started crying, and basically the thrust of it was and again I will do it as a service if I even try and copy it, so I'm not going to, but you just go and check out that Thiago Silva pep talk as well. It's all in Portuguese, there's subtitles as well, but after that you cannot not like that guy. He is everyone's he's absolutely fantastic. He really is. So yeah, Thiago Silva goes up against Chelsea, of course, against Fluminense, and then so guys, just as we come up on time, quick predictions here. What are our general thoughts as well? Chelsea, Fluminense, I biased, so I'm also going to be at that game as well, so I will be reporting from it. But yeah, Manu, thoughts?
Chelsea.
Any score
Chelsea
predictions?
Extra time though. It's going to take extra time.
Yeah,
extra time. Yeah. Well, that's going to screw with my dinner plans in New York if it does go to extra time. So I hope they do it in regular time, but we'll get to that as well. And okay, and then obviously on the other side, it looks like Manu, your PSG are sort of going to roll through.
I picked PSG for the winner of the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm on the PSG train, and I think they're going all the way.
I agree. I think PSG are gonna if you're gonna win this, you got to get through PSG, and they are the ones. So it looks like they're just Luis Enrique has really turned that team around. I have to say, he really has.
And it's wonderful. Just like all the different pieces, like the way that they are not focused in the attack on one single player. You got Kvaratskhelia, Doué, Barcola, Dembele.
Yeah.
They can put on people from the bench and that are just buying into the system that's really difficult to play. And like this is it's Luis Enrique built a squad of cult leaders, cult followers. He's a cult leader, and they're so hard to beat.
For me, the star player in that whole team is Hakimi. Hakimi is absolutely sensational. Hey?
The way he glided through three Bayern defenders, he made them look like they were trees rooted in the ground. He just slipped right in between and delivered the absolute dime.
Yeah, he's
and he's fantastic. A defender. He's
right back. Yeah, wow. There's this new generation, isn't there? Wow. The Trent Alexander-Arnold, the Reece Jameses, the sort of the Alonso
Trent doesn't
Davis,
have the
Alphonso Davies.
Trent doesn't move like that.
These attacking right backs, and then they also defend as well. Who have pace. Kyle Walker is another one as well, right? Yeah.
Dortmund initially signed him on loan, right? All the way back, Dortmund initially signed him on loan from Real Madrid and turned him into a wing back.
Yeah,
right. And that's why he plays that position. But he was, I think, a winger at Real Madrid.
There's that famous line, isn't there? When there's that famous line, I think it's from Jamie Carragher, right? It's like all right wing backs or left wing backs are there either failed centre backs who get pushed out to the right or failed wingers who have to come back and defend as well.
That's
and
true.
Then suddenly there's this new position. There's this new cult, isn't there, of all of these kind of players, as you say. To your point, Qooligan, that Burnley announcement announcing Kyle Walker as well was an absolute. I don't understand. Everyone's saying it's the best announcement. I don't understand what it is. So maybe I'm losing my touch a little bit. But anyway,
and the amount of money so small, such a tiny little amount of money, but. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Anyway, gentlemen, as always. So Manu, of course, Gegenpressing Bundesliga podcast. Go and follow you guys. Also Transfermarkt as well. I believe you also had some articles out on Forbes as well. So please go and check those out. Manu Veth. You can read about the Qooligans and myself's rantings and musings on hooligan-soccer.com. Like, follow, subscribe. We're going to have, are we going to do, General Qooligan will probably do one more post-semi-final wrap up, and then we'll do a pre-final and then a post-final, and then we'll sort of have a look back.
But we'll be back also on our regular Hooligan network. We'll to talk about
Hooligan soccer
in other sides of the beautiful game.
MLS is still going on. USL is cracking away as well. I haven't even had time to focus on these things as well. So it's all cranking as well. So yeah, it's all exciting. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much. Manu, as always, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
gents.
Yep. Bye.